I'm Dr. Clyde Wilson. This is the second mini lecture following from the basic introductory nutrition mini course. If you haven't watched that introductory mini course, I recommend you stop at this point and go back to watch those 5 short videos and look at some of the documents that are associated with them so that you're ready to fully absorb the material that's coming now. Just as a quick review, the first of the basic introductory mini course lectures, we ask what is the purpose, why should we care about eating healthier, and then what are the basic 3 elements of thinking about how to eat better, which is the questions, what are you eating, when are you eating, and water, how are you hydrating. So now we want to take that to the next level and ask the question, how can we significantly improve our health beyond what just comes from asking those simple questions, what am I eating, when am I eating, and water. How can you dive a little bit deeper into those 3 elements of what, when, and water? Bring this up in just a couple minutes again. So the question of quality of life is more complicated than just how do I increase my lifespan, my physical energy levels, and my mental energy levels, because quality of life implies happiness, and happiness includes things that reduce our health and lifespan, like pizza and skydiving and riding motorcycles and even getting out of bed in the morning. Driving down the street, most car accidents are within a mile of where you live, so turns out just living is dangerous, and we want to enjoy life, so that has a lot to do with quality of life, not just being around longer, but enjoying it. So how can you have a nutrition program that includes the foods you really enjoy that maybe got you to be overweight or high blood pressure or increasing your cancer risk? So those very foods that you enjoy so much that contribute to your quality of life are the very things which in too large amounts take away from our quality of life. So how can we include those in what we're eating so that the process of increasing our quality of life doesn't also reduce our quality of life by as much or more as the increase? Because if you're in a state of denial of pizza and ice cream for the rest of your life in order to increase quality of life, and those are your 2 favorite foods as they are mine, then that increase in quality of life becomes relative to disease risk and energy levels, but relative to personal happiness and enjoyment, there's a serious detriment or a deprivation. So the nice thing about the science of nutrition is that you don't just have to plant a garden or eat stuff from the farmer's market constantly. You can include processed foods like pizza, like ice cream, so long as the nutrients, particularly the calories, and more particularly the carbohydrate calories of those processed foods, enter your bloodstream slow enough that your lean tissue have time to absorb them. That way, your lean tissue can absorb them, will use them, and those lean tissues, meaning all the tissues in your body other than your fat cells, will use those calories to drive the function of those cells. So that means your brain, your muscles, your lungs, kidney, heart, all these organs will use those calories unless they spill over into fat because they came into the bloodstream too quickly. And you might think that's not a problem if calories spill over into fats because I'm an active person and I'll burn them. But that's not true. You will burn them, but not likely as quickly as you're storing them every time you overflow the carbohydrates flooding into your bloodstream with the donut for breakfast, the pizza for lunch, and the pasta for dinner. If there's not enough vegetables to slow down those processed carbohydrates, then you'll end up in trouble with a greater fat accumulation than what you're able to burn, even if you're a very active person. So when it comes to quality of life, you start with what do I like to eat? And even if it's pure garbage, like pizza, I don't care if you throw some broccoli on the pizza is still going to very easily increase disease risk, increase body fat levels, shorten lifespan, increase the aging rate, so your lifespan is shortened not just because of disease risk, but because of an acceleration of the aging rate itself. And some in the research community view aging as a disease in and of itself, and I agree with them. So putting pizza as a centerpiece to your nutrition program because it's your favorite food is fine, as long as that pizza digests slow enough that it doesn't hurt you, so that you get an extra 10 years of life to eat more pizza. Right? If quality of life is a measure of happiness, and if an extra large pizza all to yourself every day cuts your lifespan way down, then you get less happiness because you're not here as long. And did the second half of that pizza each day make you as happy as the first half did? Probably not. At that point, it just becomes compulsion and habit, and not being creative enough to think of other things that you might enjoy eating. So cutting the amount of carbs that you're eating in half and adding to that pizza, pasta, burritos, cake, and whatever those carbohydrates, the cookies, adding slower digesting foods to slow down the digestion of the faster digesting foods, then not only gives a statistically significant improvement in health, but a clinically significant improvement in health, like a recent study of diabetics, type 2 diabetics, so very low metabolic rate, and they split them in half. Half of them were trained in how to eat healthy, which requires a lot of learning, a lot of thinking as you're preparing and putting together meals. But the group that did significantly better than them in reducing their fasting blood sugar, the amount of medications that they needed, was the group that just added vegetables to whatever garbage they were already eating. So whenever you're eating a carbohydrate like pizza or bread or pasta or all of the above, then you add vegetables to slow down the digestion rate, and you end up with a better end result than if you try to eat healthy with complicated schemes of meal balancing and counting calories and all this. And it's not that adding vegetables to garbage is healthier. In the end, it is. But in theory, it's healthier to eat healthy, not to eat garbage with vegetables added to garbage. But it's easier to add vegetables to garbage because you get to keep eating the garbage that you love. And because you only have to remember one thing, and that's to add vegetables to the garbage. Even if you don't want to eat garbage, if you're busy, that's what you get. At meetings, at grand rounds, going somewhere with friends, that's all that we get is fast digesting carbohydrates and animal fats over and over and over again. So trying to eat healthy cuts short your family life, your social life, and even your friendly business interactions where you're going out to places to eat with people. You have to eat a salad and watch everybody else eat these foods you wish you could eat. But what if you had a ratio of vegetables to carbohydrates that was like 3 or 4 times the volume of vegetables to carbohydrate? Now you get to include that carbohydrate. You don't have to say no to it. You can eat it and you can enjoy it. But because the vegetables are in your stomach at the same time, the digestion rate is now slower. So taking the basic concepts of nutrition, which are that we need macronutrients, protein, carbohydrate, dietary fats, and water. We also need micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and the additional antioxidants or plant nutrients, phytonutrients, meaning plant nutrients. We need all of that, but the rate that these nutrients come into the body is what largely determines the health impact. For example, if you had 10 big leaves of kale all at once, the nutrient impact is the highest from the first few leaves of kale that you eat, and after that you saturate from the benefit, and you're mostly just pooping out the fiber and not able to utilize the antioxidants from the additional and even even more, and then just eating more and more and more vegetables, and the dark, as dark and raw as possible, you saturate in the benefits, just like if you had 4 cups of green tea all at once. The catechins of the 3rd and 4th green tea cup aren't even really helping you. It's once you saturate it in a benefit from something, like if you drink a liter of water, you've got all the benefits. Drinking 2 gallons just dilutes the electrolytes so much that you might die. There's several cases just in the last few years. There's a kid at Chico State who drank 5 gallons of water in a fraternity initiation rites party who died from pure water, drinking 5 gallons. A woman in a radio show competition, she drank about 2 gallons of water trying to win money to see if she could hold on to her urine. It was called Can You Hold Your Wee? She died, left 2 orphans. Not because water is toxic, but because they drank too much all at once. So if natural spring water with no contaminants of any kind can kill you in 5 or 10 minutes, which is on the order of magnitude that cyanide kills us, then isn't natural pure spring water more toxic to us by 40 or 50 years than pizza or ribs? Absolutely it is. And it's because of the rate. So a lot of us will overeat pizza, but a lot of us don't drink water. So an overconsumption of water is rare, but an overconsumption of pizza is not. But ultimately, it's the rate that things come in. And thinking that pizza is worse for you than water is incorrect. It's just that it's got carbs that we gravitate to, and water doesn't have much flavor, so we don't gravitate to that. So to eat healthy, you can't just think, put a protein, a carbohydrate, and dietary fats into your meal, with those carbohydrates mainly as vegetables and some fruits, not so much starches, because that can digest really quickly and go to fats too fast, and then make you eat even more later, because your blood sugar roller coasters up, and then the insulin drives it back down, making you even more hungry. So a balanced meal doesn't just use fast digesting starches like bread, pasta, and rice. It uses some vegetables. It uses some fruits. So you want a carbohydrate balance along with balancing the carbohydrates with protein and dietary fats. So that's meal balance. But for health, you can't just balance your meals. You have to think about the digestion rate. And that's where the portion control for the starches comes in. And if you're inactive, you wouldn't need any starches at all. You could get by completely just fine with optimum health with just fruits and vegetables. But once you get active, then you have to include the starches. We'll talk about that in a couple lectures here. So when it comes to what you're eating for health, don't just think about meal balance. Think about how fast does this meal digest. You want slow foods, foods that are minimally processed so that the stomach has to do work in order to break it down and then empty it into the intestine, which slows down the whole digestion process, giving your lean tissues time to absorb these calories, whether it's carbohydrates or proteins, and time to absorb and use these micronutrients. So when it comes to the when piece, you want to evenly space your nutrients through the day. That's kind of the concept of making sure you eat breakfast. Don't go too late with dinner. So you want your nutrients spaced out through the day. And then each meal you want to digest slowly so that it all additionally spaces the calories out through the day. And when it comes to water, you want at least half to be water as opposed to other fluids. So in summary, when you're thinking about eating for health, we're talking about your quality of life. So asking yourself the question, what am I eating, needs to include what do you like. Start your nutrition program based on that. Eat what you like, number 1. Number 2, slow down the digestion rate. So eat what you like, then apply the science. Eat slow foods, minimally processed, slower digesting, so that instead of the calories going to body fat, they're going to lean tissue, and they have higher nutrients because they're less processed. And when it comes to when you're eating and your hydration, evenly space out the calories and the nutrients, evenly space out the water, have at least half as water. compared to any other fluids. So always have an equal volume of water before anything else, whether it's coffee or a soda or juice. It doesn't matter what that other fluid is. Always have an equal amount of water first. Okay, so those are the additional, deeper ways of thinking about what, when, and water.